Hello, welcome to Podsongs. I'm Jack Stafford, and I interview inspiring people in service to others as inspiration for a new song. Today's guest is someone with a rags to riches story. He grew up in poverty in India, went to America, worked his way up and built a company called Infospace, once valued at $35 billion. Then the dot-com bubble burst. Since then, he's started about 5 or 6 different companies, and he's worked his way back up. And now he's on Podsongs. And I'm talking to him about gut bacteria. Let's welcome Naveen Jain. Last guest on my show was Brian Koppelman, the writer of Billions. Have you seen that series? And now I'm interviewing a billionaire. So,
oh God,
strange how the world.
I love the show. I love the show. It's a great show.
Did you notice any similarities? You touch on any areas that?
Well, I think that show is about a lot of people who lose their soul once they have money, and to me, when something external ends up defining you, you essentially are no longer the true to yourself, and you lose your soul. And I think many people do that. And it's not just money. People get enamored by power. People, the whole bunch of things in life. Because when you believe something external gives you happiness or ends up actually making who you are, you, to some extent, that's where you lose your happiness. That's where you lose who you are as a person, what your purpose in life is. And I find that happiness always comes from within, and people chase that happiness thinking someone or something could bring that to them. And people who are happy inside, they could sit in a dark corner and be happy. And people who are unhappy inside, they could be in a paradise and still be unhappy. So I really find that myself, that this idea of there is someone out there for everyone that's going to make them happy. And the answer is that someone is already you. Fall in love with yourself, because the day you fall in love with yourself is the day the world will fall in love with you, right?
So is that how you've managed to stay sane on this roller coaster ride of your career?
I would say that, the roller coaster ride is, Jack, what defines you as being alive. So every time when someone wants to know you're alive or dead, what do? They look for your heartbeat. What is the sign of a heartbeat? When it goes up and down, you know you're alive. When you get a smooth line, you're dead. Now imagine the people who are living their life as a smooth life. They're living a dead life. What tells you you're alive is that this goes up and down and up and down. And when you are down, all you have to know is just hunker down, keep your friends close, bring the love to the world, and the next beat is going to be up. And when you are on top of that world, never get too cocky, because winter is coming and winter will come.
Oh, that's great. So I want to talk about your latest project, Viome, which I was also talking to another guy about urine therapy, and I was very interested in the gut biome. Everyone's talking about the gut biome now. So how does Viome help with that?
Well, so first of all, we are the only company in the world that actually analyze the gut microbiome based on what they are doing, not who is there, but what they're actually doing. And it's really interesting that when you start any project, I go through this framework of, what question are you asking that is different from what everyone else is asking? Because the question you ask is the problem you solve, right? If you're asking the same question, then you're solving the same problem, right? So in the world of gut microbiome, before we came along, everyone was asking the same question, which is, I want to know what organisms are in my gut. And somehow they are good organism and the bad organism, right? And we're going to find out why the people who are bad organism, they have this disease, and we can somehow fix that and life will be good. And I came from a very different world. I don't understand the science. I think, so in my naive mind, was the organisms are no different than human beings. They're not good or bad. They become good or bad based on the environment they are in. So good people do bad things when they are with bad people, right? And that's literally, I thought the problem needs to be not look at the person or the organism, but look at their behavior. Are they doing the good thing or a bad thing? Not are they good people or bad people, right? Right. And because they're doing the bad thing, I don't care that they're good people. They're doing bad things, right? And that to me was the key to understanding that focus on their behavior, focus on what they're producing. So we decided we're not going to focus on the organisms or the DNA. We're going to focus on the gene expression or the RNA. Because to me, what makes us who we are is not our genes, but what genes are expressed in our body, right? Because think about it. If you do your DNA test today and then you gain 200 pounds, your DNA doesn't change. You can become diabetic, your DNA doesn't change. You become depressed, your DNA is still the same. But what is changing is your gene expression. And that was the key to solving this problem, is to understand what is being expressed. In other words, just like I say about people, right? So I always look at these, analogous thing in life. And I just think that if you think in a way which is naive in some sense, but really brings a new perspective to the field that no one has ever thought about. I thought just like your genes, right? Genes are like thoughts. You can have good thoughts and you can have bad thoughts. You can have all the bad thoughts in the world. As long as you don't express them, you have not committed any crime. You can think all you want, just don't express them. And I thought, what if your genes are just like that? You can have good genes, you can have bad genes. Just don't express the bad ones, and you're totally fine. And my point is, so we really focused on understanding that. And then we say, how do we express people from expressing the bad stuff and expressing the good stuff, right? And that is really what Viome became. So we went and looked for this technology everywhere. And everyone told me it was impossible to do the gene expression. And it turns out that, as a person and entrepreneur, we don't take no for an answer. We just keep looking. We keep looking. And we found the technology sitting at a Los Alamos National Lab, where they had developed it for a biodefense work, right? Where they serious project. They spent 10 years developing this technology. And I say, you know what? They may be using it for whatever purpose they want, but I know we can use this thing to help 1 billion people live a better, healthier life. And we started a company, Viome, with a simple belief that we can create a world, because we know we can imagine a world where illness is truly a matter of choice, not a matter of bad luck. So we said, Viome, imagine a world where illness is optional. And that to me was really the magic was. We didn't say imagine a world where illness is obsolete. Because tell you why. Because Jack, if you and I say we can create a world where illness is obsolete, what it says is we have that power to create that world. Instead, we say, no, we don't. We have a power to tell you, Jack, what you need to do to stay healthy. But the choice of staying healthy is you. That means it's optional. We can only tell you what is good for you and what is bad for you. But if you decide, I would rather be sick, you know what? Be my guest.
That's very interesting. When I was starting this podcast, I wanted to interview people who were serving others. So trying to make the world a better place. So is that why you started Viome? Because you wanted to reach the most number of people that you could help?
Yeah, so to me, success in life is never defined by how much money you have in the bank. Your success is only defined by how many lives you've been able to improve, right? And with that definition, the more you serve others, more successful you become. And it's really interesting is the people who want to chase money never end up getting money. And if you work on, simply to say, you know what, every person who I meet, I'm going to make them financially successful. It's only a matter of time before you become financially successful. If you go out and make your goal to make everyone live healthy, it's a matter of time. You're going to find yourself living healthy, right? So my point is the more of what you give is more of what you receive. And it is, to me, is a part of this call energy, call universe, what it is that when you start to surround yourself with simply serving people, the people find a way to serve you and your needs get actually met. And when you focus on a goal that is self-centered, you rarely end up ever achieving those goals, right? And people worry about success and say, how do I ever know when I have actually become successful? And I think, to me, what I find is the biggest sign of success really is humility. The day you become humble is the day you become successful. Because if you have still iota of arrogance left in you, that means you're still trying to prove something to yourself or someone else. Because a successful person never walks into someone and says, do you know who I am? Because when you have to say that, you're really nobody.
I have to say that a lot.
But my point, we don't. Jack, my point is, you will never walk up to someone and say, do you know who I am? You simply say, I am Jack, and that's it. Right? You don't have to say, oh, I write songs. You know who I am. It's like, no, I'm just Jack. And point I'm trying to say is that people somehow feel that their ego and their business card and their profession defines who they are. In my opinion, it is your action, it is your values, it is your family, it is your environment, it is your community that actually defines who you are. You are never successful unless people around you believe what you're doing is what they want to do, and they call you successful. Right? Yeah.
So what do you think? Like, because you're an Indian that's moved to America, so you're an outsider. How do you think that? I mean, what do you think of the American healthcare system? I mean, you're quite new to it. You came from computers.
So I really think the medical industrial complex that we have created in the United States is fundamentally creating a wrong behavior. It is not that the people in the system are wrong, but the whole incentive system is completely broken. Everyone in our medical industrial complex makes money when you and I are sick, and no one makes money when we are healthy. Think about that for a second. A doctor who is a good person, and I'm sure they did the medical degree because they wanted to serve people. Guess what happens? Let's assume every single patient, they focused on keeping this person healthy. Guess what happens? They get sick because there's no money. They're not making 1 cent now. Guess what happens? Then they get sick. Right? My point is, hospital makes money when you're sick. Doctor makes money when you're sick. And especially when you and I develop a chronic disease, pharmaceutical companies look at us as a lifetime subscriber. Oh, Jack is young. He's got 25. He got diabetes. Lifetime subscriber coming up. Ka-ching! And that to me is a problem. I really think we should create a different incentive where we say, you know what? If any one of your patient you get a monthly fee from every patient, but if your patient ever gets sick, you stop getting a fee.
Well, that used to happen in India, no, in Ayurveda. In the local villages, they used to pay a subscription to the doctor.
That's right. And by the way, when they got sick, guess what? Doctor has to now work twice as hard because they stop getting money. Mm-hmm. So when person gets sick, they say, look, I'm going to stop paying you now until the person gets better. Mm-hmm. And that creates an incentive where essentially you now focus on making person healthy, right? And that to me is the fundamental thing. That other thing we forget is, every doctor who goes to a medical school, they take the Hippocratic oath, do no harm, right? And what they forget is actually what Hippocrates actually said. He said, all diseases begin in the gut. That's his literal words. All diseases begin in the gut. Let food be thy medicine. Let thy medicine be the food. Right? And if you go to a doctor, hey, doctor, what can I do to stay healthy? He said, take these drugs. They never say, hey, let's sit down and talk about some nutrition here. Because nobody makes money selling you nutrition, right? They want to sell you drugs. And that's a fundamental problem we all suffer. And I really hope that, our goal is to empower every one of us to become the CEO of our own health. What if we can find out? Because, there is rarely a time in the human history like today where we are able to understand at a molecular level what is happening inside our body. We know what biochemical activities are happening in your body better than a doctor will ever understand, because there's so much information that our body creates. Only artificial intelligence can process the massive amount of data. To some extent, all those technology that used to be the domain of massive rich countries or rich people or rich companies, now it is available to every one of us at a price point that we can afford. Right. So for $100, you can get that information. And it tells you, like, for example, when you do a Viome test, we tell you, here are the foods you should eat and why. Here are the foods you should avoid and why. Right. So for example, it tells me don't eat broccoli. He says broccoli is not good for you, cabbage is not good for me, and Brussels sprout, which all are considered healthy food, but they are not good for me right now. And they may become good for me 6 months from now. But right now, my body actually is being harmed when I eat this food. And the reason is these food are very high in sulfate, and my gut microbes are producing a lot of sulfide, causing inflammation. So I got to cut that down. So it tells me don't eat banana because it is causing my glucose to go up, right? So it literally tells you don't eat this, instead eat this food. Right. And it tells you why. It is no magic because we told you so. We literally analyze you and tell you what's going on. To me, that is what we call making illness optional. Now, Jack can say, you know what? I love my banana and I'm going to eat broccoli. And I'm going to say, Jack, when you get sick, you made a choice, right? And that choice is entirely yours. I can't stop you from getting sick, but I can simply tell you the information that you need not to be sick.
So what about seasonal eating, though? Because in Ayurveda, we learn about the gut microbiome changes. If you feed a deer the wrong food out of season, it dies. Do you take that into account?
So it's really, those were very, what I would say, broad, crude way of actually doing it, because in those days you couldn't do a, gene expression analysis of your gut. And, to me, if you were to look at and think, even the foods that are in season, they may not be good for you. For example, milk may be in season all the time. Doesn't mean the dairy is good for you, right? So my point is, even the food that are seasonal, for some people, they may not be good for you. For other people, they may be good for you. Some people may eat a strawberry and they may get histamine response, and they may actually get food sensitivity or allergic response to it, and other people not. Same type of thing. I mean, a lot of people who are allergic to nuts, you can't say they're available in the season, eat them, and you should not have allergy. People die from it, right? So you can't, so my point I'm trying to make is that if you were going to make a broad statement about if you didn't have any information, I would tell you what, in general, don't eat processed food, don't eat artificial sweeteners, eat the fruits as they come in nature, and eat as many different types of food that you can eat. So don't just say, I'm going on a keto diet and I don't eat this and I only eat this. That literally fucks up your body royally, right? So you go on a paleo diet, you go on this, you go on intermittent fasting.
Diets,
literally, it's completely screw up. In fact, we published a paper in Cell where we showed people's biological age. And we saw that as people are aging, what causes their biological age to be higher than their chronological age? And it turns out the biggest factor was people on these fat diets. Ketogenic diet was the worst diet of all, followed by paleo diet, and followed by all these fat diets, right? And the best diet turned out to be was actually a vegan and vegetarian. So plant-based food, plant-based diet turned out to be the best in terms of those people were 3 to 5 years younger than chronological age. I'm a vegan, and my chronological age is 61. My biological age was 49. Right? So I was 12 years younger than my chronological age, simply by maintaining the body into the homeostasis, by avoiding the foods that are bad for me and eating the foods that are good for me, and taking the nutrients that my body needs. So we saw that there are a lot of nutrients even we were not getting from the food, because to get a amount of nutrients that our body needs, we may have to eat a massive amount of fiber. And we just in running at this stuff, running our life, which is just wild, and we hardly have any time to eat food, we end up getting the dietary supplement. So we actually thought, what if we can make supplement for each individual based on what they need at that time? So we literally, this has never been, people thought was crazy idea. We look at your body and say, based on your all the genes that are expressed in the human body, all your gut microbiome that's there in your body, you need 13 milligram of elderberry, you need 22 milligram of lycopene, you need 13 milligram of amylase. And we literally take all those things, whether it's 30, 40, 50, put them in capsules just for you. Make those things literally in that precise dosage just for you. Every probiotic, every prebiotic, and we put them all together. And this to me is going to the fact that everything can now be personalized. And that means you have to treat me as if I am unique. My body is different from my wife, my children. And you can't just say we all should eat the same food because our grandparents say that we all should sit together and eat the same meal. Right? It's not good for everybody.
No, well, they do that in Ayurveda. They always do they actually make a medicine for you based on your pulse.
That is exactly the Jack. That's the trick. Is we're going back to the basics of what we learned 5,000 years ago. Right?
So doctors you can always do stool analysis. So what's different about Biome? Is it just the medicine you make afterwards, or is also the analysis?
So the biggest change is how we analyze the stool. So most people were analyzing the stool simply to look for what organisms are there. We are looking at what they are producing, because based on that, everything changes. So same organism in your gut may be producing some stuff that's really good. In my stuff, the same organism will be producing something bad. And it's really, really simple. I mean, if you look at the people who have certain diseases and they go into relapse or remission, it's not their organisms are changing. It is what they are expressing is constantly changing, which causes people to have a disease. Otherwise, why would they suddenly end up getting a disease? One day you wake up, you have a disease.
Okay. So what's holding back Western medicine from adopting this more holistic approach?
The biggest thing is the money. This whole idea. I mean, if you think about it, the pharmaceutical company that are selling you these drugs, let's take, if you develop, God forbid, autoimmune disease, guess what? All they do is want to suppress your immune system so you don't feel the symptom. And now if your immune system is suppressed, guess what happens? You get all the infection, right? So the whole idea, now they give you drugs for them, and then those drugs cause more symptoms and they give you drugs for them. So the whole pharmaceutical system is based on literally keeping you sick. And the more sick you are, the more money they make. So now let's assume you have antacid. I mean, there's $6 billion people are spending on Nexium, the antacid drug, right?
Oh my
Think
God.
about that for a second, right? Now,
that's a lot.
It's a lot. Now, imagine what happens. The acid in the stomach is there for a reason, right? Why would the nature create acid in the stomach? You know why? Because all the microbes, all the pathogens that are coming from the food or from our saliva, oral microbiome, they should all die in the stomach because of acid. When you take antacid drug, they don't die. Now they all end up settling down in the gut, causing all kinds of things. In fact, that's how the colorectal cancer happens. Some of the oral microbiome settles in the gut. So we actually looked at it. We are able to now predict the people who are going to get colorectal cancer, oral cancer with 94% accuracy. We can just look at your saliva and say you're going to develop an oral cancer. Right? And so my point I'm trying to make is that the pharmaceutical companies, let's assume, are able to now make sure that just by nutrition, you no longer have acidity. Now, how do they make money now? I mean, they can't be selling you food. They can't be just making money. So the problem is they have $6 billion to lose. So they don't want to go out and do something that could reduce their revenue. So let's assume someone like us comes along and say, you know what, we can analyze your gut. We can go figure out what's going on, and we'll tell you what foods you should eat and what you should not eat. We can't make $6 billion, but you know what? Even if we make $100 million, that's $100 million we didn't have before. So we are willing to go out there and take that $100 million and make everyone healthy. And that's a good business for us, right? But someone who is making $6 billion, they're not going to say, I will take $100 million. We are happy. Right? No. And that's a problem. Why the incumbent will never solve this problem. It is someone like us who say, you know what? Let's just solve the problem. Let's make 7 billion people happy. And if we make a small amount of money from that, everyone is going to say, you know what? You did good deed. You did well for doing good.
I heard you on another podcast. You were talking about how you were praising the host for this holistic approach where the hospital should have every medicine available. Maybe somebody needs hallucinogenics.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody needs Ayurveda, someone needs Chinese medicine, someone, there should be this complete service available, no?
And honestly, there is no one silver bullet that's good for everyone. And we really need to be treating the underlying conditions that people have rather than simply putting a band-aid or symptom suppression, which is what our current medical system does, because the whole system needs to be rethought. I mean, somebody needs to rethink this whole medical system where someone like you who comes along and want to do the good in the world. And I just say, Jack, I mean, I've heard great things about you, that you wouldn't be doing it and giving so much of your time to educating all your followers if you didn't believe it could do good for them, right? So my point is, when people like you come along and want to dedicate their life to educating other people so they can be better, it is how the societies move forward. It is how humanities move forward. It is our purpose of life when we come to this world is to leave this world a better than we found it, rather than rape and plunder this world, take everything we can while we are alive, because when we are dead, we have nothing else to take anymore, right? Rather than saying that let's be a good trustee and let's be a good steward of this world that God gave us or universe gave us, right? And this idea of hating other people, the idea of this whole, jealousy and hate comes because we just cannot live with ourselves. Because if you really, truly are happy, it's very hard for you to hate someone. It is the people who are bitter and angry and just dissatisfied with themselves are the ones who end up hating everyone else and hating the world. And they become hopeless and helpless, and they create the world that they is completely hopeless and helpless.
I think also fear is a shade of hatred. How do you think the COVID situation has affected things?
COVID is obviously, no one should ever take it lightly. Having said that, COVID has been probably there's a silver lining in that cloud, which is it has really truly advanced healthcare by a decade. And what I mean by that is our healthcare system would have never adopted telehealth for another decade, but for COVID. Even the big companies like Kaiser's of the world are now doing telehealth. They thought that was never something they would ever do.
Can you say that again? So what did you say? They're adopting what?
The telehealth, the remote health.
Remote health.
Doctor on the phone.
Okay, right.
These companies would have never done that. Right. The fact that you can talk to your doctor on Zoom, I mean, that's unbelievable, right? Right. So my point is that has really been good. The second thing that has really been good, in my opinion, is that it used to be that, people would say that, hey, I do what I do. When I get sick, I go to the doctor, I go to the hospital, they take care of me. In COVID, people are actually now realizing, hey, wait a sec. I don't want to be sick. I don't want to go to a doctor. What can I do to stay healthy? So they're taking the immune supplements. They're taking everything they can to eat healthy. They want to take their vitamins. They want to take their supplements. They want to make sure they can stay healthy. And that is literally for the first time I'm seeing that people are realizing that their health is in their control. That means they actually have a power to stay healthy. And that's a big change, because to me, which is exactly what Wyoming set out to do, is to empower individuals that, hey, your actions have consequences. When you don't wear a mask and you're going to go out there, that has consequences. Not only you're going to get sick, you're going to bring that home and make everyone else sick. And that responsibility of taking care of your own health and your family's health actually lies in you. And that, to me, is a big change. Before this, it never used to be like that. People felt it's not my problem. It is someone else's problem. Or when I get sick, it's a bad luck for me, not just somehow I did something.
I heard you talking also about how the AI is going to come into our homes, and we can, the bathroom tiles will take our sweat samples and all these different things. The mirror will take our... Give us
Wow, you've really listened to a lot of stuff I talk about.
But I was worried because I think people outsource their thinking, and they go, okay, they have more information, but they stop tuning into their body. Okay, they get an AI instead of a doctor, so they're having more, they can make decisions. But I worry that people don't do their own thinking.
Look, my point is you can only think based on the information you have. If you don't have the information, how can you possibly think, right? So in a sense, like saying that I have a Google map that telling me to go left, but it's, no, I'm going to think on my own. I know I've been on this road before. I'm going to take a right turn, and suddenly you're stuck in traffic. Now, what do you say to yourself? Well, I was listening to my intuition because I know that's a shorter route, or you're listening to AI that's telling you, young man, don't go right. You better go left right now. Right? So my point is, because Google Maps know there is an accident there, you can't be listening to something that you don't know. Right? So my point is, you didn't have that knowledge. You knew going right is a shortcut. But what you didn't know was there was an accident there. And that's the reason Google is telling you to go left.
But it's happened to me many times that, we're leaving the house, we type in the address, and maybe my girlfriend's typed it in wrong. And, we head in completely the wrong direction for hours because we just didn't turn on our brains.
Honestly, that can only happen when you make, 99% of the time it's a user error. I'm sure there is some mistakes that do happen, but I have never seen that type of a mistake that's made. And of course, you cannot completely be blind to everything that is going on. When I am going towards Canada and I'm going to end up in Mexico, something is wrong.
No, but when a tumor starts to develop in the body, for example, let's pick the worst one. It takes a long time. And if you're doing meditation and you're tuned into your body, you can feel blockages there. But if you just delegate everything to an AI, then this could be a potential problem for people in the future.
Only if the AI doesn't have the information from within the body. So if you have the nanobots inside your body that are constantly looking at every chemical, every cortisol stress signal that is in your body, every biochemical activity, every neuron, every neurotransmitter that is actually transmitting everything, you will know everything that's happening in the body, just like essentially being tuned into your body is literally now your sensors are tuning into your body and telling you, you're stressed right now, young man. And you need to really meditate right now, right? And you really need to take a deep breath right now.
I guess it's like what you say. Let's look at it positively. That I sometimes I do need reminding to meditate, and I do need reminding that I'm my breathing is shallow and that. So it's a good thing. But on the other hand, these crutches very quickly develop into wheelchairs.
It does. And I think that is the problem, is that we can never take any system for granted. Because every system is going to have its own set of errors and biases based on the person who designed them, right? It is never going to be something that is going to be invented itself. It is actually brings in the biases of the people who actually bring it together. And those human biases are what they are, right? They're individuals' biases. And you and I may be more in tune with our body than anyone else who developed the AI would ever have, right? Sometimes there are a lot of people I know. My grandpa would just simply someday would say, you know what? I'm not feeling well. I'm going to stay home. And there was no symptom he had. He just wanted to rest because he listens to his body and say, something is not right here. Or, he would just go simply find the acupressure point himself to see what will make him feel better, right? So all these things are not just because they are different from a current Western medicine doesn't mean they are voodoo. They really may not be today well understood. So whether you look at the energy healing, whether you look at magnetic healing, we all are now understanding that our bodies are impacted by energy around us, whether it is the electromagnetic field, whether it is electricity, and all these things that we are surrounding ourselves with, electronics. It is impacting our body. So if anyone somehow thinks that none of that actually happens, is hallucinating, right? Because our bodies at the end of the day are biological. They get impacted by everything. You put a magnet next to your brain, you start to suddenly...
You have Bluetooth headphones in now.
Unfortunately, yes.
Do you ever do things that your grandfather, like, do you take like Ayurveda? I mean, triphala is very good for the gut biome, no? Do you
Oh my
ever?
God, yeah, the triphala means tree is three and phala is fruits, or three fruits. I mean, literally, triphala is three fruits. Right? So we do quite a bit of that. To me, the best thing you can do, even if you never did the biome test, would be to go take walk in nature. Be around, where massive richness of diversity of ecosystem, where there's a lot of moss. Go to the rainforest, spend, live there with animals, because that's where you get the richness of all the nature that nature has to provide. You will rarely find a farmer who is living with their cattle and stuff is sneezing in spring because the pollen is coming.
Yes, yeah, they have immunities. So here, I live in the south of Italy here, and the local goat farmer who I get my milk from, she says she used to bring the children in, and when she was cleaning out the stall, and they never had any respiratory problems, great immunity.
Exactly. Yeah. That's my point. So so point is you can make yourself extremely rich symbiotically with nature, because at the end of the day, our body is an ecosystem. It has 40 trillion microbes. More than 39 trillion just in our gut alone, trillion in our mouth alone, and all over our skin. We breathe billions of microbes in and out. And depending on if we are in nature, we are really breathing those microbes in and really getting a diversity of that. At the end of the day, we think we are a human being and somehow different. We are literally a microbial ecosystem, and with a little bit of human DNA sprinkled into it, right? But we literally are really in their world. There are multi-trillion of them for every one of us.
Because my girlfriend suffers a lot with constipation, and so she always.
By the way, that's IBS. Yeah, so there's all of the symptoms. If she were to ever do a biome test, that's one thing that easily gets fixed.
Why is that? Just because you can add take the supplements?
We know exactly what is going on and what causing the motility issues. So it could be either because there is a motility issues, or there is not enough fiber in the diet, or what is the underlying cause of that constipation, and which is what actually makes it healthier for you.
Okay, wow. Okay, well, thanks, Naveen. That's been fantastic.
Jack, I think it's been an honor and a pleasure. So I'm glad we got to connect, and looking forward to seeing what magic you do with this.
All right, Phil, thanks very much. It's been lovely chatting to you. Have a great day.
I'll take care. Okay, bye-bye.
She feels all messed up inside. It's the pressure she can't hide. Wants to go badly, but just can't work it out. I'll win her heart and help her out. 'Cause to be clean and regular is her ambition in life. If she was clean and regular, it would all be alright. Something's wrong deep down. She's not a pleasure to be around. Not feeling so well, and as far as she can tell, her backlog's getting big. Too big, clean and regular is her ambition in life. If she was clean and regular, it would all be alright. I'll take her fresh fruit in the morning, Trafalgar at night. I'll make her clean and regular. She'll love me alright. The thoughts she can't explain lie inside her second brain. A messy microbiome needs analysis to get to the bottom of this. passion in life. She was clean and regular. It will all be alright. I'll take her fresh fruit in the morning, Trafalgar at night. I'll make her clean and regular. She'll love me alright. Hello and welcome to the end of the show. This is traditionally where I ask you to share the episode, rate and review it on your podcast app, and listen to the song on Spotify, iTunes, or even better, download it so you can have it forever from Podsongs.com. It's only €1 or $1, and that money goes to pay for the musicians, Maurizio San Nicola, Massimino Vozza, and my researcher Dori Verbo. Thanks to you, the listener. See you next time.